The Trump administration delivers a blunt message to Europe, telling allies to step up or step aside.
We in America have no interest in being polite and orderly caretakers of the West's managed decline.
Meanwhile, ceasefire talks resume between Russia and Ukraine. What issues stand in the way?
I'm Georgia Howe with Daily Wire executive editor John Bickley. It's Tuesday, February 17th, and this is Morning Wire.
We want that state and local cooperation to allow us to take criminal illegal aliens from the jails once they've served time.
A new report shows cooperation between local law enforcement and ICE has skyrocketed under Trump, rising nearly 1,000%.
And the Pentagon pulls nearly $2 million in Army contracts after discovering they went to a dubious company tied to an Islamic funding network. We have the Daily Wire exclusive.
Thanks for waking up with Morning Wire. Stay tuned. We have the news you need to know.
Starting something new like a business or podcast isn't just hard, it can be terrifying too. So much work goes into the thing that you're not entirely sure will work out, and it can be hard to make that leap of faith. Luckily, our sponsor Shopify is on your side to help you launch and achieve your dreams. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and an incredible 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names to brands just getting started, including our very own Daily Wire shop. Shopify streamlines your entire e-commerce operation by consolidating essential business tools from inventory management and payment processing to analytics into one unified platform, eliminating the hassle of juggling multiple websites and services. The platform integrates AI capabilities to help you work smarter, automatically generating compelling product descriptions, crafting engaging headlines, and even optimizing your product images to save you valuable time. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/morningwire. Head over to shopify.com/morningwire. Again, that's shopify.com/morningwire.
American diplomats descended on Munich this weekend for a high-stakes security conference amid growing tensions between the U.S. and Europe.
Daily Wire senior editor Cabot Phillips is freshly back from paternity leave.
Yes.
Welcome back.
It is good to be back. Sleep deprived and very happy, guys.
Cabot, I've got to admit, I missed you.
I never thought I would hear that. Can
Very
we clip
little
that?
bit. Very small amount.
Send me that clip. It's good to be back, John.
So we had a major gathering in Europe over the weekend. What happened?
Yeah, every year, Western leaders attend the Munich Security Conference to collaborate on national defense, foreign policy, etc. Now, since retaking the White House, it's no secret that President Trump has put Europe on notice. Essentially, his message has been, you need us more than we need you. Get on board or face the consequences. For example, at this same conference last year, J.D. Vance gave a highly publicized address in which he slammed European leaders for allowing mass migration, arguing they had abandoned Western values.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China. What I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values.
And that message has really been echoed by the White House throughout the entire last year, much to the chagrin of European leaders. They've responded by banding together in opposition to Trump and the U.S. more broadly, and have sought alternative allies like India and Brazil. So the assumption coming into this weekend was that we would hear more of that same scathing language from the White House directed at Europe. And when Secretary of State Marco Rubio took the stage for his keynote address, it seemed like things were heading again in that direction. He started by taking aim at a, quote, dogmatic vision of free and unfettered trade, which he says has hollowed out American manufacturing. Then he slammed the West's, quote, appeasing of a climate cult, which has impoverished our people, and of course pushed back on mass migration, which he says, quote, threatens the cohesion of our societies and continuity of our culture. But then he started to extend an olive branch of sorts. Have a listen.
While we are prepared, if necessary, to do this alone, it is our preference and it is our hope to do this together with you, our friends here in Europe. For the United States and Europe, we belong together. We are part of one civilization, Western civilization.
And then in a really remarkable scene, he explained why President Trump has been so hard on them. At times, it sort of sounded like an intervention from a concerned family member, with Rubio saying that Europe is heading for destruction and that the U.S. is, say, their big brother or something who cares too much about them to let that happen.
This is why we Americans may sometimes come off as a little direct and urgent. in our council. This is why President Trump demands seriousness and reciprocity from our friends here in Europe. We want Europe to be strong.
And how was that message received?
Well, it appeared to be music to the ears of the European leaders gathered. They offered him a rousing standing ovation when he was finished. And listen, for example, to what Wolfgang Ischinger, a former German diplomat, said to Rubio on stage right after he finished.
Mr. Secretary, I'm not sure you heard the sigh of relief through this hall when we were just listening to what I would interpret as a message of reassurance, of partnership.
Now, how much of the conference was devoted to the war in Ukraine, and where do things stand now there?
Yeah, that was certainly the main focus for much of the weekend. And this week, the U.S. is brokering a third round of negotiations between the two sides. But the reality is things do still appear to be at a standstill. Putin has refused to back down from his demand for territorial concessions from Ukraine. And Zelensky said that he is barred by the country's constitution from giving up any land without first holding a nationwide vote, which he says is nearly impossible given the war. For his part, President Trump has pressured Zelensky to also hold a presidential election to give Ukrainians a chance to elect a new leader. Zelensky has for months pushed back on that demand, but during his address in Munich this weekend said that he would make it happen if the U.S. could push Putin to accept a ceasefire. Zelensky also says that the White House has signaled that they want a deal completed by June. But if we've learned anything during this 4-year war, it's that peace is hard to come by.
Right, and I don't think anyone expected it to go this long. Cabot, thanks for reporting.
Absolutely.
Having the right life insurance is a big deal. Thinking about it may feel overwhelming, but taking steps to protect your family financially is now easier than ever through our sponsor, Ethos. You can get a quote in just seconds and actually apply in minutes, with the possibility of same-day coverage. The best part? There's no medical exam required. They offer coverage of up to $3 million, and some policies start as low as $30 a month. Not having life insurance means that your family will become immediately responsible for everything if something happens to you. Taking the time to set up life insurance now means that you're giving your family a bit of a safety net during a time when they're already going to be grieving you. And that sounds like peace of mind. Business Insider recognized Ethos as the top no medical exam instant life insurance provider as of March 2025, and customers seem to agree. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/wire. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get your free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/wire. That is ethos.com/wire. ethos.com/wire. Application times and rates may vary.
Agreements between ICE and local law enforcement have surged in the first year of President Trump's second term. The agreements are a cornerstone of Trump's promise to deport dangerous criminals from the U.S.
Here to talk about the latest on immigration is Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce. Morning, Tim. So lots to get to on the immigration front, but first let's start with Trump's Homeland Security Department. It struck hundreds more of these agreements with local law enforcement. What do they do?
Yeah, it's not a new system, but it invites local law enforcement from across the country to have their officers deputized into ICE. Police officers and sheriff's deputies can then stop people who they suspect are illegal aliens and start them through the process of deportation. The program was around for years until the year 2012. Former President Obama curbed it after officers in North Carolina and Arizona were accused of racial profiling. But Trump brought it back last year with funding in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and the number of participating law enforcement agencies has exploded from 135 under Biden to nearly 1,200 today. That's according to a new report by the advocacy group Forward.us. Now, there's quite a big incentive for these local law enforcement agencies to partner up with ICE. Participants are eligible to receive $7,500 for equipment per trained officer, $100,000 for new vehicles, and overtime pay for up to a quarter of an officer's salary. All told, the program could pay out $1.4 to $2 billion to local law enforcement this year. Now, this program is important for a few big reasons. First, ICE is able to effectively multiply the number of active agents it has in the field to detain illegal aliens. And often the most dangerous illegals are already in the custody of local law enforcement, so working with ICE will expedite those removals. And second, this is an especially dangerous time to be an ICE agent with constant threats and attacks from anti-ICE activists who have, at least in part, been spun up by attacks from prominent politicians. Comparisons to Hitler's secret police stands out. This program keeps ICE agents out of highly visible places where attacks are more often to happen. Since Trump took office, Homeland Security has reported a 1,500% increase in assaults against ICE agents.
Yeah, that percentage keeps going up and up every month. Now, one of the growing trends in the anti-ICE movement appears to be popping up actually in high schools. What's going on there?
Right. Schools have become a significant source of anti ICE protesters. According to the New York Times, student protests against ICE have happened now in more than 3 dozen states. And often students are skipping class to participate. In states such as Texas, this has caused problems between school administrators and elected leaders who are skeptical that some of the adults in these schools aren't facilitating this behavior somehow.
Right, and this brings us to the new Daily Wire report showing that these schools may be directly involved in this anti-ICE indoctrination, correct?
Yeah, this was a story from the Daily Wire's Leif Lemahue. He obtained materials from an 8th grade geography class in Minnesota that taught that ICE agents use tricky and violent tactics. Those students were also awarded extra credit for watching a British-produced video on the problem of illegal immigration in the United States. We spoke to Erica Sanzi of Defending Education about what's going on in these classrooms. Here's what she said.
It is propaganda in the sense that it is a one-sided perspective, and this just happens to be a perspective that is going to paint the president and ICE in a very negative light. And I find it a huge leap to claim that a slideshow that is sort of this emotionally charged in a middle school classroom could be defended under the guise of geography, particularly at a time where the majority of students don't know the 50 states, don't know their capitals, can't name all the oceans, can't name all the continents, and yet somehow this sort of anti-ICE PowerPoint becomes a centerpiece of a lesson under the guise of current events.
So some pretty political material that could have a lot of parents concerned.
Yeah, and rightly. So, Tim, thanks for joining us.
Good to be on.
Few organizations know more about leadership than the U.S. Army, but it paid nearly $2 million to a company called the Nonprofit Empowerment Group to teach its people how to lead.
Daily Wire investigative reporter Luke Rosiak found that the company had dubious expertise and potentially problematic ties to an Islamic fundraising network. So, Luke, first, remind our listeners what 8A is, and then tell us your latest finding.
Hey, Georgia. So just to refresh the listeners on the Minority Contracting 8A program, here is War Secretary Pete Hegseth with a succinct explanation.
In many, many instances, these socially disadvantaged businesses, they don't even do work. They take a 10%, 20%, sometimes 50% fee off the top and then pass the contract off to a giant consulting firm, commonly known as Beltway bandits. For decades, this program, 8A, has been a breeding ground for fraud, and this administration is finally doing something about it.
And to your question, in this latest investigation, we see an example of how it may also be used to subsidize politically connected NGOs with make work, and how at worst, it could even undermine national security. The Army Corps of Engineers paid the Nonprofit Empowerment Group $1.7 million between 2021 and 2025 for leadership training, and the military also paid it for writing courses. The contract sought the, quote, professional services of an academic institution to provide graduate-level instruction. But the contract didn't go to a college. Instead, it went to a group with a bare-bones website that lists only one employee, a former bank teller. The reason the government was able to choose this firm was because it was, as the website explained with an apparent typo, a, quote, disadvantaged woman, small-owned business.
So aside from being ostensibly owned by a disadvantaged woman, what do we know about this organization?
Well, despite its name, it's not a nonprofit at all. It's a for-profit company operating out of the same office as and sharing the same officers with a group called the World Congress of Muslim Philanthropists, which reported being deeply in debt. The president of the Muslim group, Tariq Chima, is the secretary of the Nonprofit Empowerment Group. So the same guy is a central employee at both, and most of the customers listed on the NEG's website are nonprofits that Chima is associated with, so potentially steering money from his nonprofits to his for-profit. Chima declined to comment.
So potentially major commingling of funds between this disadvantaged woman-owned operation and the activist organization. But you've also reported they have some very concerning ties.
Yeah, well, one of the nonprofits Chima sits on the board of, and which is one of the NEG's few known customers, is the Islamic Medical Association, which the Muslim Brotherhood once included in a, quote, list of our organizations and the organizations of our friends. It was established under the Islamic Society of North America, which itself was named an unindicted co-conspirator in a 2007 Hamas fundraising trial.
So this organization that has the Sketchy website and only one confirmed employee, they are tasked with teaching the Army leadership. That's their deliverable.
Right. I mean, now Assistant Secretary of the Army, Adam Tell, told the Daily Wire that this week the Pentagon terminated the contracts for being, quote, absurd and sketchy. He pointed out that one element of the contract was to introduce people from the Army to members of Congress and to other government officials. He said, quote, there's no good reason that one part of the federal government should use taxpayer dollars to pay a third party in order to talk to another part of the federal government. Now, the government was able to send money to this firm because it was owned by a minority woman and it got certified under 8A to do business in the field of, quote, administrative management and general management consulting services, whatever that means. So outside of seeking random government contracts, it's apparently doing business with people from countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar. But Angela Massey, its only known employee, is photographed with Barack Obama and says in her LinkedIn bio that she's a staunch supporter of social justice. So at best, it's a left-wing slush fund, and at worst, it's bringing in unvetted international ties that maybe shouldn't have access to the Army.
Well, glad that contract has been terminated, but it makes you wonder how many more of these are out there. Luke, thanks for reporting.
Anytime.
Another story we're tracking, a tragedy in Rhode Island on Monday. A gunman opened fire at a youth hockey game, killing 2 people and injuring 3 others before turning the gun on himself. In a press conference last night, police confirmed the identity of the gunman as Robert Dorgan, a trans-identifying man who also went by the name Roberta Esposito. He's believed to have targeted his own family before taking his own life. As of last night, the 3 who were injured remain in critical condition at the hospital. Look for updates on Daily Wire. Thanks for waking up with us, and for those listening to the show, you can also watch the show free on Daily Wire Plus. We'll be back this evening with more news you need to know.